My best friend suddenly proposed to me out of the blue and in public. Since I'm still shocked that this happened, there may be a lot of content here. Please be patient with me. All fictitious names, etc. 2 years ago, Jordan and I met in university. Since we enrolled at the same time, we were regarded as mature students due to our ages. We shared a room, so we soon became close friends while making jokes about how old we were, in our early 20s, to be deemed mature. Even though we weren't taking the same course, we would spend as much time together as possible when there weren't any lectures. We went out drinking every weekend, joined a number of societies together, and so on. We were at least never alone, so it was a fairly wonderful gig. Of course, we made other friends alone and with each other, but at the end of the day, we were each other's first priorities. We are currently enjoying spring break for Easter. Even though we don't hang out all the time, we decided to schedule visits to each other's hometowns because our hometowns are so dissimilar from one another. We visited mine today. Big City Central is what mine is. Since he had never been there before, we went this morning and spent some time exploring the streets. This is usually a busy area with lots of street vendors trying to sell you anything from fluffy Pokemon caps to hot dogs. I made the decision to commission a caricature. I've never had one, so when we returned for term, I thought it would be amusing to acquire one and put it over my bed. Jordan refused to answer when I asked whether he wanted to go inside. I sat down to finish it, no concerns. They only take around 5 or 10 minutes, so I kept my eyes fixed on the artist the entire time. I really liked how he concluded the caricature. Naturally, I turned to adequately demonstrate Jordan, though I honestly don't know what to say when I turn around. With a ring box in his hand, he has knelt down. I was so puzzled that I hardly paid attention, so I'm not really sure what he said if he even did the entire proposal speech thing. Remind yourself that this is a very popular tourist destination. As a result, a small crowd has now gathered to support us. I couldn't hold back my laughs. To be completely honest, I assumed this was some sort of strange practical joke. We've never been prankster types or anything like that, but I was at a loss for words. I thus continued to chuckle uncontrollably. That is, until I glanced at Jordan, who appeared to be truly upset. Obviously, I said something like, "You're not being serious?" To him, all I can remember him saying was this. With a sigh, he closed the box, got up, and stated, "I guess not anymore," and moved away. This made me stand somewhat awkwardly in front of the assembled throng, many of whom were staring at me with disdain, which made me feel really uneasy. We had reserved rooms adjacent to each other at a hotel, so the plan was to meet there again. I assume that's his destination and proceed in that direction. However, he is not present. I keep waiting, and he still doesn't come back. I text him to check on him out of concern at 1:15 p.m. It's 6:20 p.m. here, and ask him if he's okay. He replies with an incredibly long message, which I would post, but I won't respect his privacy. In it, he essentially calls me out for leading him on and asks me why I didn't break up with him sooner. He claims that I publicly humiliated him and that he thought I loved him the same way, and that our relationship was strong enough to consider taking the next step. This is totally unexpected at this point. I genuinely don't know where in the world he got the idea for this. We have never been physically closer than when we give each other a quick hug. I've avoided even lighthearted flirting with him since I've had too many friendships fall apart due to people's inability to distinguish between lighthearted banter and genuine interest, so I've taken additional care to avoid it. We've never had sex, gone on a date, or had a kiss. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him since I don't think he's physically beautiful. Where on earth does he think that we are? I do not know. He has never brought up this subject before, so I'm quite perplexed. I check on him every now and then to make sure he hasn't left the hotel, and I've been keeping an ear out for him to come up the corridor or do anything else. Nothing. Sincerely, why haven't I replied to his lengthy paragraph? I have no idea how. I truly don't know where to go or what to do next since I'm so shocked and taken away. I haven't mentioned this to anyone I know in person yet, primarily because I don't want to discuss it with Jordan's acquaintances. I'm now turning to Reddit strangers instead. How in the heck do I do this? Update. In actuality, Jordan never returned to the hotel. He didn't come back, so I stayed up until 1 in the morning before going to sleep. He had checked himself out at around 6 in the morning, the hotel staff informed me when I woke up the following day. In the end, I did reply to his lengthy text. Following everyone's advice, I told him that although I was sorry things hadn't gone as he had hoped, I wasn't sure where he had heard about our relationship. To make sure we're on the same page, I replied I'd be pleased to sit down and have a conversation about everything. This did not make him happy at all, and he started talking non-stop, repeating many of the same points from his initial speech. He didn't appear to be thinking about it at all. I told him clearly that we are not and never have been breaking up, but even in these new texts, he kept calling all of this as me breaking up with him. Again, even though none of what he was saying was grounded in fact, his messages were all very clear and comprehensible. My phone was exploding because he wasn't texting paragraphs, just phrases that came one after the other. He informed me that I had ripped out his heart and crushed it in public, and that was why he didn't want to speak with me in person. I did ask him to name specific moments in our relationship that led him to believe that we were dating, but he completely disregarded my inquiry and continued to talk about how devastated he was that I was breaking up with him and how he felt like his world was crumbling. He claimed to love me unconditionally and felt so certain that I felt the same, which is why he felt so certain to pop the question in an attempt to move our relationship along. To be honest, I got very bored with the conversation after a while and stopped participating because it kept running in circles. I asked him where he got this idea and he ignored me, telling me how hurt he was and that we should part up, etc. He kept on repeating that he felt I would appreciate the ring because it was made of rubies rather than diamonds, which is my favorite gem. I'm left wondering how much he really paid for this stupid contraption. I couldn't tell if the ring was very pricey or not because I wasn't looking at it closely, and that he had been saving up the guts to propose for a while and thought that proposing to me at home would make it even more memorable. I stopped replying to his texts, so for a while he was just texting himself. Roughly 20 minutes later, I returned to find that I had received roughly 60 texts from him. Okay. So each sentence was a single sentence. He said he was sorry at the very end and that I wouldn't see him around anymore, so it didn't really matter. I obviously sought for explanation since I was worried. He declared that he couldn't deal with the shame and that he was going to leave university and return home. That was the end of our talk. To that, I wasn't really sure how to react. I'm not entirely sure where Jordan is right now. It is my fault because I neglected to ask. I have no idea when or if we will speak again. I apologize for the rather dull update. Sadly, I can't make everyone giddy with and then he sent me flowers, and then he turned up at my door or anything like that. A lot seems to be unanswered. He hasn't stated where he got the concept from, thus I still don't know. I apologize for not being able to respond to everyone. I have not yet gotten in touch with his family. I did think about it, but I really don't want to involve them needlessly if he isn't experiencing a mental health crisis. Update 2. Furthermore, many others suggested that I inquire with our shared friends to see if he has before brought up this topic. Have you ever hinted that we were dating? Although it was only 5 people, everyone I asked stated they had no idea, and he had never brought it up before. I'm not sure if this is something he's been thinking about for a while, if it's something long-term, etc. In any event, I've also taken screenshots of all of his texts and other correspondence. Looking back at them with a less bewildered perspective, they read as very frantic. His mother hasn't responded to him yet. Hey, I'm still alive. I'm currently back at my parents' house and won't be moving about much till school resumes in a little while. Still, it's good to be home. Comments. Commentator. I can see why you wouldn't want to involve your family, but if you two are close and attending college, there are probably other friends or acquaintances you might get in touch with to inquire. Simply say something like, hey, did you think that Jordan and I were dating? Without getting too detailed. Has Jordan ever referred to us as a couple? Determine whether this is a persistent issue and he's simply a normal oddball, or whether this is something more serious that needs to be discussed with family members or the mental health specialists at your school. Oopie, although I haven't really thought about it, I will absolutely explore getting in touch with the friends we have in common. Though clearly I'm not positive, I have the feeling that someone would have informed me if he had been saying such to them. I haven't discussed it with anyone outside of Reddit, not even my parents, and I've been operating under the virtual pseudonym there. But I can understand why it could be crucial to do this. Commentator. In case anything more were to happen, I would advise informing your parents. OOP. Yes, you should definitely inform a few individuals. I wouldn't trust that he doesn't simply turn up back on campus, so I would tell my mother. My mom and I have a system in place whereby if I don't message her twice a day, someone should phone the dorm mom to see how I'm doing. Although I recognize that you don't want to assume the worst about him, he is still not acting rationally if he is refusing to respond to your inquiries. In order for them to watch out for you as well, you should also speak with a mutual buddy. You require verification from a person who is familiar with both of you. They were unaware that you were dating, or 2, believed you were dating 3 people. Jordan did occasionally bring up topics, but they were dismissed because it's obvious that you're not dating.